Again, I'm Darrell Brown, and to my left is Marcia Keith, and to my right is Taylor Ewell. This segment is about telling our story, but essentially it's about how the department has been executing on the 5-year strategic plan. As you know, we have a 5-year strategic plan that we're 2 years into. And the plan is a roadmap to improve the county's economic environment for business investment. And 3 years ago, we hired Garner Economics. And Garner Economics is a site selector that specialized in helping counties develop strategic plans. Now, as you may or may not know, a site selector is a consultant that businesses will oftentimes go to seek advice regarding relocation, location, and the like. And so what Garner Economics and site selectors typically will do is that they will determine whether or not an environment is ready for business investment. And as a part of what Garner Economic does is that they base this on a sort of a community factors or variables. And what you have on the board here is our dashboard. And what Garner Economics did was they measured the county in terms of these 50 community factors or community variables. And what happened was that we scored in a position that we could have had higher scores in terms of how our rankings came across. And the report indicated, or the scoreboard indicated, that we had 14 of the categories that put us in a negative ranking. And we had 19 that put us in a neutral sort of ranking, which isn't bad, but it isn't good. And we don't want to be neutral because we want to be highly competitive. And we had 17 that were positive. But in short, because we had too many in the neutral category and too many in the negative category, that put us in a position where we needed some recommendations that would help us improve or enhance the environment for business investment. And so Garner Economics made 18 recommendations in 3 categories. And those categories are enhance the product, execute effectively, and tell the story. And so this morning, Taylor will share with you how we have executed on the recommendations under enhance the product. Then I will come back and share with you what we've done on the execute effectively. And Marcia Keith will then share with you how we have better marketed the county for business investment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Taylor.
Okay, next slide, please.
I'm going to pass you the mic. The clicker.
Okay, this first section, I'm going to talk about the Opportunity Zone. Can I have a show of hands how many people are familiar with the Opportunity Zone program? Well, that's good, because I'm going to fly through this. And if you have any questions and can wait till the end of the program, pull up a seat and let's talk. But the Opportunity Zone is new this year. It's a nationwide initiative administered by the U.S. Department of Treasury. It provides federal tax incentives for investment in distressed communities and allows capital gains to be invested in these zones in tangible properties such as land, buildings, or equipment, or a ownership share of stocks in a business. The mechanism for accessing the incentive zone or the opportunity zone is an opportunity fund. And there can be multiple opportunity funds in any opportunity zone. So an example would be a mixed use project like Waldorf Station and setting up an opportunity fund for just one of those elements. Our role in all of this was to help identify the potential, the candidates for opportunity zones early in the process last spring, and then make the case for them to help ensure that the ones that were selected had the highest impact on the county's economic development and allowed the most potential for return on investment for developers and so forth.
Taylor, hold the mic up a little bit.
The other incentive, it's a local incentive that we're working on, is the rehabilitation tax credit. And that allows an investor to do property improvements, either building rehab or tear down and redevelopment, and would allow a step down in property taxes over the course of 5 years. So not a lot of detail on that in the interest of time, but again, the more will come out, and that's a work in progress. Okay, water and wastewater capacity. We're in the southern end right now of the Waldorf Urban Redevelopment Corridor, and the roadway on 925, which is just to my right, is subject to improvement. As a matter of fact, $30 million has been allocated in their capital fund to do those improvements. You're probably wondering why it's taken so long. There have been some challenges associated with trying to cram water, wastewater, which is absolutely necessary for the types of urban density development that we're looking for to proceed. But along with that, the vision calls for buried utilities such as electric and phone lines. That's a lot to cram into a narrow right-of-way when everybody wants to be not under the roadway. So what we did was we called in senior management from SMECO, our director of planning, our chief of capital services, and we all sat at one table. We presented the vision to SMECO on the overall, the plan, the phase one, the work development, and so forth. We found that they didn't really have a good sense of what that was, but when they did, they were much more amenable to working with us to find creative solutions for working this out and starting to commence with the improvements. So our hats off to SMECO, thank you very much, and we'll be moving forward with that. We really feel like we've gotten past an impasse on that. Gateways. The Waldorf Station project has been brought up a couple of times. Jen Harris talked about the roadway improvements, Western Parkway and US 301. And Darius showed a slide which said sell mixed-use projects, to attract and retain businesses. This is just such a project. We wholly support it, wholly endorse it, and are actively advocating for it moving through the approvals process and starting construction. As you're aware, the demo phase of that has already occurred. All the old buildings are gone. They've leveled the ground. So we are looking forward to continuing to work with Greenberg Gibbons. It is a mixed-use project. It will have a Class A office development component along with hotel, multifamily, residential, and high-profile retail. So they have created also the first opportunity fund in Charles County. So they are taking full advantage of the Opportunity Zone program, and they're currently negotiating with tenants to occupy the property. Maryland Airport. I was just at Maryland Airport last week for a couple of hours. It is still a viable business, and I can tell you that the owner has taken the steps necessary to protect the business into the foreseeable future. It is on the market. There are several interested parties looking to or negotiating to buy the airport. So it's very viable. And as a matter of fact, this past summer in June, EDD submitted a letter to the county administrator to direct planning and growth management to initiate an overlay zone process to return the property surrounding the airport back to commercial use. Turn your attention to this map. The airport is identified. It's in the middle of that. It's surrounded by a black line. And then the white area, including that little blue square off to the left of the diamond, that is all of the area that is subject to this rezoning process So this will make the property much more attractive to prospective buyers because of the ability to develop outside of the fence. And we expect that process, it's at least slated to be completed by middle spring, about April. And in the Where's There's More segment, if I could just speak to the retail attraction initiative that Darrell alluded to earlier. You know, we're all aware that these major chains like H.H. Gregg, Sports Authority, Toys R Us, you know, they've just closed down for business. It really hit home, though, when the Safeway and Bryan's Road vacated their space. So at that time, we had already made a decision to attend the International Council of Shopping Centers convention out in Las Vegas. And we set up appointments with local shopping center owners, their representatives, and their national representatives to talk about is there any sort of public intervention, anything that we can undertake to sort of help retail along. It had chugged along for decades under its own inertia, and now it could probably use some direct help from us. We came to the conclusion, with their blessing, the best way to go about that would be to hire a professional services firm that specializes in not only identifying retailers that Charles County fits their profile for location, but actually helping us perform direct recruitment duties. So we expect, we're reviewing proposals now. We expect to have that completed by next week, and hopefully this project will be underway before the first of the year. There's a list of other active projects on here. Darrell, I think there's one you want to speak to specifically?
Just the clicker. I would draw your attention to pages 9 through 11 in our annual report. But the one that I do want to point out is the USDA EOI. And you know, that we have I think we're competitive in attracting two of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's research facilities to the county. And the process is a little bit nebulous in that they didn't say when they were going to make a decision or what the timeline is, but nonetheless, I will say this: we in the department, we monitor our website very diligently, and we noticed that someone from USDA logged on into our website, spent 20 minutes on our website, and viewed 11 pages. And I don't know what that means. It may not mean anything, but it certainly was an indication that someone from the federal agency was taking a look at us, and I hope to hear back from them relatively soon. Execute effectively. And how we improve the economic development service delivery system. We hired 2 new part-time business consultants to support the BRE program. And I mentioned the BRE program earlier today. There is a gap in our service delivery system, if you will. We did not have a robust business outreach program. And we hired a very talented chief of business development, Lucretia Freeman Buster, who's in the back there. She's a former VP at a bank and commercial lending. So she has really good experience and really good knowledge about business consulting and how we can reach out to small businesses and help them grow, expand, and develop. So we've hired 2 part-time consultants to help with that program. Our advisory board, we continue to meet quarterly. Our advisory board members are very active and very engaged, and they advise the department. They advise me on a whole host of issues, and they are also ambassadors to the community. So please, a few of our advisory board members are here. Please reach out to them if you have any questions at all about what the department is doing and how we are and what programs we are operating. create a one-stop shopping permitting office. Steve Kai Ziegler is the director of PGM. And Steve, are you here? Steve, would you mind standing up real quick? Steve has done a lot of work with PGM. He has reorganized the department to make it more efficient, make it more effective, and just recently he put together and established a new software program. And I'm just going to turn it over to Steve and let Steve talk about that for a minute or so, and then we'll move forward. But go ahead, Steve.
Sure, Darrell. Thank you, everyone. This is an amazing turnout. So what Darrell is talking about is in PGM, and many of you have dealt with our office in the past, we were working with a software system called AS400 that is basically a COBOL or Fortran type of operating system. Who here still works in those type of processes? We're kind of giggling, but long and short of it, our system that we used dated back to the early 1990s. But our business practices, the way we do reviews, the way we issue permits, changed dramatically over the last 25 to 30 years. So over the last 18 months, we've been working with a company, Tyler, to basically convert all of our data, our systems, from this old antiquated system into Energov. And I think the slide captures it very well. If we could go back. Oh, you've got it. Let's go back one. So this is something incredibly important, that instead of submitting reams of paper at a permit counter and waiting in tremendously long lines, you're now able to do it online. The reviews will come more efficiently. Who here has applied for a building permit in Charles County? So one of the things that happened is you probably got 5, 6, 8 different letters from the permitting office on our review comments. Not a very efficient way to do business. This system allows us much more easily to combine all of our review comments into one, and all of our reviews will be happening that way. So we just went live a week ago Monday. Monday was an interesting day. We learned a lot. Tuesday was better. Wednesday was better still. And a week into it, while it's difficult to ascertain the overall effectiveness, at least those of us within PGM and our usual customers are much happier. This is one of the things that we're trying to do, working with EDD, county government, to become more efficient in all the things that we do, because ultimately our goal is to be good public servants.
Thank you, Steve. Moving on, advocate for and develop a realistic and sustainable incentive policy for Charles County. As you can see, in 2017, we recommended 4 incentive policies or legislation, if you will. 2 of them were done and completed, and we have 2 now. The tax stabilization and the rehab tax credit is before our county attorney's office. It's under review, and once that review is done, then we will submit it and go through the normal legislative process for approval. And wait, there's more. As I mentioned earlier, the BRE program, retail analysis, we've talked about. You've heard about the workforce study. The craft beverage zoning text amendment was really important. We were at a competitive disadvantage here not that long ago because we didn't have a regulatory framework for craft beverage. We have one now. We will use that regulatory framework as a marketing tool to attract breweries to the county. And I want to give a shout out to Martin Prue, who is on our staff, who led that effort. Martin, please stand. I don't know, he's around here somewhere. There he's in the back. Martin worked collaboratively with PGM, and again, I want to give kudos to Steve's department as well. It was a collaborative effort. We certainly didn't do it by ourselves. 3 loans totaling over $166,000. What we did here was we revised our underwriting requirements of our loan funds, and in doing so, we were able to infuse an additional amount of money into the business community to the tune of $166,000. And that was recently, as our Chief of Business Development went back and took a look at our underwriting and felt that we could improve on that to get more money out into the business community. And opening of new medical cannabis businesses. We have 4 in the county. They're doing extremely well. When the state passed the medical cannabis law, we jumped right on that. We wanted to grow that industry here in the county, and we have, and our businesses thus far are doing very well. And now we'll move to tell the story.
I'll talk about our tactics to better market the region. We have myself and Jennifer Reginald is our marketing coordinator that work on the county's marketing program with help from the rest of the team, and we do function very much as a team. Define Charles County's key assets for target audiences. That was something that was done a number of years ago when we first began the marketing effort. And you can see there, those are the assets. The first 3 are the ones that we continue to focus on, and that is the fact that we're close to Washington, D.C. We have an educated workforce, which we can now prove, and we do have lower costs of doing business, and we continue to use that message in all of our marketing. And our marketing efforts are ongoing and have been going on for a number of years. Use earned media to help tell the Charles County story. The articles in periodicals and online and newspapers are going to have a lot more credibility than the ads that we run. So that is part of our marketing program, is to try to get stories in the newspaper. So you can see this year we've had 23 articles. Many of those have been local, but we have also had a couple of articles in regional and national publications. Our digital marketing online, Darrell mentioned the USDA site search. So much of what happens in economic development happens online, so we continue to enhance our digital presence. And as Jennifer Harris, our Chief of Marketing Services, mentioned, the county is now doing podcasts and Facebook Live, and Jennifer has worked with us, Jennifer and her team, to help us add that to our toolbox of digital marketing. Working with our local business community, Darrell talked about the business retention and expansion program, and that's probably right now our #1 effort to engage with businesses, because that creates so much information that we can use to help better our services, but also engaging with other organizations and having events like this, where we can tell you what we're doing and we can interact with you and hear what your needs are. So coming up in 2019, we will continue having our quarterly business roundtables. We hold those at the Waldorf West Library and our annual fall meeting. Go ahead and mark your calendars, because there it is, all of our dates for 2019, because we do want to continue engaging with you. And also our ag marketing, that's new with the addition of Martin Prue, our Ag Business Development Manager. We, this year, ran ads in the Maryland Independent to advertise the farmers market and to support the farmers market. We did rack cards to help the consumers better interact with the growers and know what to expect when, and directional signs to help drive traffic to the farmers market. So our marketing efforts are ongoing. One really important part, though, of our marketing effort is you, and that is we do look to you and to our community to be ambassadors for Charles County and help us tell the story about what a great place it is to own and operate a business in Charles County.
Again, our goal by executing on the recommendations of the 5-year plan is to move our indicators. We want to move from red to yellow to green, and in the end, ideally, we want to have more green than anywhere else. That creates that kind of environment where businesses want to invest in, and so that's the whole purpose of the strategic plan, enhancing our environment for business investment. Sometime next year, this time, we will have Garner Economics come back. They will conduct a review to measure, to see how successful we've been in moving our indicators. I'm very confident because we have already started to move our indicators in significant ways. I'm very confident by that time we will have substantially moved our indicators. We will have made the environment, again, more attractive for business investment. And so we look forward to that, and we will report back to you on the measurements from Garner Economics. And of course, our strategic plan is designed in such a way where it is fluid. I mean, it can shift and change. We can take corrective actions if we feel that we need to move in a different direction. But again, the goal here is to always work on enhancing our environment and improving our product, which is the county. With that, up next is Mike Malinoff, who will moderate the next panel. And the next panel is all about solutions as we talk about workforce and closing the workforce gap. But in the meantime, I would like to direct your attention once again to the video.
So much has changed in economic development when it comes to attraction.
Probably the number one reason that they choose to locate is the available workforce, and especially site selectors.
The business is not going to locate in an area unless there's a qualified workforce available.
Making sure that we have the workforce and we can demonstrate that we have the workforce becomes very, very important. But a lot of times what we're also hearing is that people are really struggling to find the higher level managerial or technical worker. And I think a big part of that has to do with the fact that we are so close to Washington, D.C.
A lot of the local workforce does commute out of the county, which kind of leaves a bit of a gap for some of our local business and some of their local needs.
I think the highly skilled people that are here are taking higher paid jobs up the road, and what is left are not the higher skilled people.
64% of our residents who work are leaving the county every day to go work in Washington, D.C. or some of the adjacent suburbs. So they may come and they stay and they get trained, and the employer puts a lot of resources into developing this person who then just leaves and takes those skills somewhere else.
Being able to offer the benefit of not having to commute is huge. People don't want to spend 2 hours a day going up and down the road and sitting in traffic. The fact that we have something closer to home gives a nice work-family balance that a lot of other companies may not be able to offer. We have to start reaching to the kids and to their parents. And to especially for construction and for management, we need to talk to girls. They need to understand that this is no longer a man's world and we need to claim our share. The construction and manufacturing industry is less than 9% represented by women, and that's abhorrible considering the shortage we have. I mean, this is an untapped industry full of very intelligent young ladies. So the other lady that we just hired was actually in tears because she got her welding certification. It was her dream to be a welder, and she couldn't find a job. We are short. We cannot find skilled and qualified welders. And there were employers who were not hiring her because she was a woman. And when we hired her to be a welder, she was so excited. She came dancing into the office, came running around the office, thanking everybody for the opportunity. She was so excited.
Every business is different, and so what works for one business is going to be a little bit different than what works for another business, but we can all learn from each other, and hopefully the businesses can learn from each other. That's why we need to have this discussion.
Thank you. That was very nice. I'd first like to say thank you to EDD and Darrell and his team. What a great professional presentation and team you have, and I really give you a round of applause for the quality of what you do and bringing the county forward. This is an incredibly busy day for Charles County. It's kind of emblematic of what's going on. We have our bond sale going on as we speak, the AAA bond rating, and I was kind of torn whether I'd be there or here. And Darrell looked me in the eye and said, "You made a promise," so here I am. And then right after this, I'm going to dash out to Chapel Point because we have kind of a turning over of the keys to the park from the state to us to better run and operate it, and we have this phenomenal roundtable quarterly or yearly annual breakfast or fall meeting, excuse me. that we're all enjoying. So this is where I am because it's so important to the county to build our businesses. I do want to say, Darrell, I did see the sunrise this morning. It was after I went swimming at CSM. So you could come join me there, and Dr. Murphy, you too, because I'm there every morning, and we can get out and do a little bit of networking at the gym. Our segment is called Solutions for Hire, Employers' Workforce Strategies. Now, I have a lot of history here that people don't know. I can recall growing up and working at my dad's business in D.C., seeing a lot of folks coming from Charles County, buy this retail business, going home. And so our job is to keep people here, working and staying off the roads, and that's why we're gathered. Charles County is an employer. We're the third largest employer when we were presenting up in New York. The Board of Education is number one, as Kim Hill often will tell us when she comes before her budget. The Indian Head is number two, one of our speakers, and we're number three. And we realize what it takes to hire and keep good people, and people like EDD and others. Jennifer Harris, who spoke, she was commuting, and we were able to bring her here because it's a great place to work and a great place to live. I do also want to point out we just hired a new recruiter. Her name is Shelley Sanfelice. She is in the back. She came from CSM. Sorry, Dr. Murphy, but we upped our game, and she's with us now. And I'm not beyond poaching good people. Touche. So right now I'd like to introduce our panelists. From the nearest to me is Dr. Christopher Wilhelm, Customer Advocate for Science and Technology, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Indian Head Explosion Ordnance Disposal Technology Division. Next to him is Stacy Cook, Vice President of Human Resources, University of Maryland Charles Regional Medical Center. And they did poach one of our employees not too long ago. Crystal Hunt's out in the audience. So I guess what goes around comes around. And Joshua Burnett, who is the CEO of Vericet Tactical Systems. I just asked him, and that shows how my short-term memory is working, what the name of his company is. He is the CEO. I had a couple of questions written down. I'm going to try to do this, keep you all seated and move it along. I've got a kind of a chicken and an egg kind of question. What do you see as the primary issues with attracting employees here? Is it something that is quality of life that we need to create to make people want to move here, sort of something the Indian Head folks were alluding to earlier? Or is it something else that an employer wants to come here and they need better infrastructure to do their business or assistance from the county? And it's something that I often have dealt with BRAC studies, and here, Annapolis and Newport, Rhode Island, is the term nice. Is it an issue here with your employers? Is there something we need to do to attract employees, or is it more infrastructure related to your business?
So if you're familiar with the Indian Head campus at all, we're a little bit outdated, and that's kind of tough with the next generation coming up. And you come down 210, and it's a little bit also outdated, which is a little bit difficult for bringing people down here. But I will tell you, I grew up in New York. I moved down here in 2009. I started at the old Navio Detective before the campuses merged, and I love it down here. So one of the things I think that Charles County has going for us is our open spaces, the parks. It's beautiful down here. People actually, hold doors for other people, not something I was used to in New York. So the people are nice. It really is a great place to live. I do think that I heard craft beer not too long ago, and I think that's going to help. My wife is from Fort Collins, which has a huge craft beer industry.
I'm with you on that one. Darrell will tell you. I was hitting him on the.
Yeah, I think that
Darrell, we got to work on that one.
That was a good move. And so I genuinely think that once you come down here and you start to get involved, that this is an easy place to recruit to. Our proximity to DC as far as being a federal employee is nice because we'll do a lot of trainings up there, and it's not long travel. I don't have to go overnight. I could come home to my family, which is all very attractive to this region.
I guess our situation is different in that we have the benefit of people who have already made the decision to relocate to Charles County because of the quality housing and the school system. So our challenge, which I think we've successfully overcome, is really letting people know that you have a great healthcare environment, a great healthcare facility in the community that you could work, you can come and work at. So one of the presenters earlier said 40% of the people who leave the county are actually in the health care field. I think that that number is probably decreased over the years because we've been pretty successful at attracting people, maintaining competitive salaries, so that they can get a greater work-life balance by giving up that hour-and-a-half commute into DC, Northern Virginia, and Prince George's County to work.
Where I rent, there are nurses and people who work at the hospital, and I get to see that up close, and people that work with you too. Mm-hmm. So I kind of see it day in and day out from our conversations.
For myself, and I am also, much like Dr. Wilhelm, a transplant into Southern Maryland. I received my last set of active duty orders coming back from overseas to be stationed at the Pentagon in 2012. Weighed the pros and cons between Northern Virginia and Southern Maryland. Pretty fairly easy decision there for myself and my family. So we decided to stay in Charles County. And then in 2014, when I retired and went out on my own as a young entrepreneur and made the attempt to make a successful and build a successful company with the right people and the right team. Charles County was really easy for us to reside in because of the socioeconomic diversity that already exists within the county. There's very few places that I've been to in any number of countries and numerous states in the country where you simultaneously have agriculture, healthcare, high-paying professional jobs, retail outlets, access to 3 major international airports within an hour. And my company happens to be in Waldorf now instead of my basement in Hughesville, because from Waldorf I can access 5 to 6 major military or federal headquarters buildings within an hour. You've got a lot going for Charles County already, and I think the infrastructure improvements that are earmarked for the future and that are currently underway are doing nothing but helping the case for Charles County.
So we're hearing about the quality of life being essentially a good quality of life, and that we need to get brew pubs and that kind of social entertainment. I can remember when I was a kid coming down to the Stardust and hearing music, and that was something big in my youth. And I was asking some people, whatever happened to that? Even the commissioners, I said, what'd you do to those places? So we're working towards bringing more of that to the county so that day in and day out people don't have to go out of the area. Is there anything that you think the county needs to do in terms of incentives, infrastructure, or any of the other items that would make your business thrive or your organization thrive that we need to work on, starting from the end?
I would say continue some of the programs that are already in place. The strategic investment opportunities that come through the county that Darrell spoke to earlier, that $166,000 in direct investment loans to businesses within Charles County to help them grow. And honestly, those become incentives for businesses that are already in Charles County to stay in Charles County. We were the recipient of one of those loans this previous year, and it has done nothing but help us exponentially grow our local workforce. And being in cybersecurity, we're allowing our local workforce here to do as much work remotely as possible while the infrastructure services are improved.
So I would say the partnerships, some of the groups, the panelists on the first group with the K through 12, CSM, workforce development, really highlighting those partnerships because we've certainly directly benefited from all of those relationships and attracting new people to healthcare, incumbent training. So if there's a way to just really highlight that and really get people to understand that those relationships are invaluable, and if you take part and benefit from, you will benefit from them.
So I'm also going to mention partnerships. I was a little brokenhearted with the previous panel because nobody mentioned partnering with the Navy. But since I took over my current duties about 5 years ago, we've established educational partnership agreements with all the local universities. And one of the things that we're trying to do as a federal lab is work with the higher education institutes to get some curricula in place that's sort of focused on a career at Indian Head. So the way that I look at it, and you notice it from my notes, is we have sort of three things that we need to do. One, we need to have a workforce that's educated into the fields in which we hire. The second thing is we need to get them on board. And then the third thing is we need to keep them. And so the first part of that is our partnerships with the university, with the College of Southern Maryland was actually one of the first things I did when I took over. We just entered into an educational partnership agreement with St. Mary's College last winter, I think it was March. And I just had an educational partnership reviewed by the legal office up at the University of Maryland. So we're working to try and reinvigorate the youth's interest in the STEM fields. It's sort of a difficult thing. My wife and I talk a lot. We have a son who was actually born in La Plata. About, you don't need to go to college anymore, and that's very true. There are a lot of great careers in non-STEM fields, absolutely. Unfortunately, as a hiring entity, we look a lot for engineering, we look a lot for the sciences, the physical sciences, and those sort of educational levels. And I think that there's a lot of students, both in the high school level and in the college level, who don't particularly consider a career with the federal government as something that they necessarily want to do, but I can guarantee you, if I talk to them for 10 minutes, they'll be interested in coming to work at Indian Head. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to do. Some of the things that my command is trying to do is get out there and sort of influence these curricula to show some of the exciting things that you can do in the STEM fields and how it can turn into an exciting, well-paying career.
And if I can second that, Dr. Wilhelm brings up a great point, and it was a question that I brought up earlier to the academic partners on the previous panel. One of the great things about cybersecurity and the way we approach cybersecurity hiring, training, and workforce development at VTS, we approach it the way blue-collar work has been approached for decades in this country. When you talk about plumbers and pipe fitters, many plumbers make six figures. It does not take a college degree to make six figures inside of cybersecurity. I myself am the CEO, my COO, my lead engineer, none of us have college degrees. That's not to say we haven't attended college. I'm one of those career students. I have 300 undergrad credits, 50 master's. I like school, but I will go target a class because I know that I can bring it back and utilize the skills and the knowledge that come out of that class within my specific career field. That's not to say college is a bad place. I kind of have an opinion that college and the military are both great places to start, to figure out what you want to do, and then progress on professionally from there. But I absolutely second his opinion that if we don't simultaneously marry academia with industry as they both move forward, we can't address the workforce gaps at all.
Have any of you heard of the book Shopcraft is Soulcraft by Matthew Crawford? It's an interesting book about a gentleman who was a finance person and worked in Wall Street, and then he decided, I'm going to be a motorcycle mechanic, and he's down in Richmond, and he talks about this very concept that's been discussed here about how satisfying making that transition is, how you won't be outsourced for the most part because it's work that has to take place here, and that you can make a good living. It's very interesting points. I know we're nearing towards the end, but I want to give each of you an opportunity if you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing and anything else you want to add before we open it to questions.
Okay, so I had mentioned the sort of three things that Indian Head needs to do. So the other two things that we've been doing of late is we've been strategizing our internship programs to align with educational programs such that we talk, and I think a lot of parents right now talk about the expense of college. Well, The DOD has internships that will pay for tuition. The DOD will put some money in your pocket while you're interning at a federal lab, while you're going through school, because you're going to work a little bit over the summer, you're going to work a little bit over Christmas break. They need to do that in order to maintain their credentials. So that is one of the things that we're doing, is strategizing how we apply the internship programs available to us to align them with educational programs, which of course then saves the students some money. And then I saw the Velocity Center up on the screen not too long ago, and Indian Head has been part of that partnership. One of the things that we did in order to work towards workforce retention is to establish an innovation center on our campus that's open to all of our employees, because one of the things I think that you get in the federal system, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a former Marine, I've worked for the federal government in most of my career. I'm institutionalized, and I'm used to, you know, a small concrete room with a little bed, and I wake up and I have my one dresser that's got all my clothes in it. I'm fine with that. But I think if we want the next generation and the generation coming up after that to stay working at Indian Head and stay in Charles County, they need to be able to be creative and innovate and do things that are outside of their daily job responsibilities in order to get that sense of fulfillment that you can only get with being creative. And then I'll pass it over.
Okay. With healthcare being one of the fastest growing career opportunities in the United States, we've taken an approach where we do pipeline building in our relationships with the Charles County school system. We actively participate in their health science program and their engineering or biomedical program. And again, it's educating the youth on opportunities in healthcare. Active partnerships with CSM. CSM is one of the biggest suppliers of many of our entry-level healthcare jobs that exist. And it kind of goes back to, I know kids, not everybody's set up for college, but there are a lot of opportunities where in 2 years you can get a degree. You can go for 9 months and get different certifications that really set you up for success in healthcare with jobs that pay well above minimum wage. And so we spend a lot of time marketing and educating and partnering to make people aware of healthcare careers. And then workforce engagement through our relationship with Tri-County Council. I want to give them if any of you have not worked with the services that are offered by Tri-County Council, I will tell you to give them an opportunity to help you address your workforce development needs. They are best practice industry leaders. We have partnered with them probably for the last 6 years on different engagements and been very satisfied. And they actually made us, had a presentation about apprenticeship. And so we will be setting up one of the first state certified apprenticeships in this region. And Secretary Schultz spoke of that very briefly. It's a very exciting, it takes a lot to get there. So for us to be able to do that is very exciting. And then just ensuring that the people that we are able to attract, that we're able to retain them through workforce engagement initiatives. We have a very good leader in our CEO who is focused on the workforce and making sure that we offer competitive wages and benefits, that we're able to, in real time, address workforce needs to maintain a highly engaged workforce. And those are the things that have positioned us to have one of the lowest vacancy rates in the state of Maryland in healthcare, as well as a very low turnover rate.
Thank you. And one last?
So just 3 quick points, and to second the panel, my fellow panelists, Tri-County Council, and honestly, Tri-County Council has done more to help us in the long run with identifying entry-level staffing to bring them on board. It's been a phenomenal relationship. Our partnership has only been as of this year, but a phenomenal group over at Tri-County Council. Here at VTS, we actually we address workforce gap in a little bit different way than a lot of people do. Our goal was, let's identify available workforce pools, regardless of what their talent, current skill set, current education level are. Bring me people who don't have work right now. One of our core competencies at VTS for the past 4.5 years has been training cybersecurity certificates to industry standards for the federal government workforce at large. And we kind of thought, hey, if we're doing this for a workforce that already exists, why can't we turn around and provide this internally within our own organization? So that's the way we approach hiring as well. If you have soft skills identified already, come. We will train you how to do cyber. We train privates in the Army in the span of 22 weeks to get ready to not only deploy, fight in our wars, go to combat, manage and lead people, but also how to do operational cybersecurity, both offensively and defensively, and then we send them overseas to do their job. And there's no reason why we cannot use that same type of mentality internally and train those recent college graduates, those current college students, the adults on the autism spectrum, the veterans, regardless of what MOS, AFSC rate that they're coming out of. If you are coming to VTS and you want to work, we will find a partner like Tri-County Council. We will find a partner like one of the Fortune 500 defense contract companies that we work with, GDIT, Booz Allen Hamilton, Lockheed Martin. We will find the money to make sure that you get paid while you are trained. And then if we cannot directly employ you at the end of that program, we will place you with one of our partners who knows that you've been trained properly, who knows that you have all of the industry certifications, who knows that you've been properly vetted and have a security clearance from a cybersecurity company that holds its own FCL. We run those programs internally because our goal is to address the workforce gap with people who are currently looking for work. And we're seeing a lot of Fortune 500 defense contractors and private industry who have a cybersecurity workforce gap that is growing. This year, as of this year, ISC Squared, one of the largest certifying bodies in cybersecurity, said we have 299,000 open jobs within the cybersecurity industry in North America this year. By 2022, that's expected to be 1.2 million open cybersecurity jobs. That's the gap that we're looking at. And companies have to start thinking about, how can I grab people who simply want to work and train them, give them the skill sets, and then give them the work, instead of, where do I find qualified candidates? The qualified candidate is the guy who you just interviewed that you said, you don't have a degree, so I can't hire you. You have special needs, so I can't hire you. You don't have enough experience, so I can't hire you. Every single one of those people, and that's why we at VTS target adults on the autism spectrum, veterans regardless of their job skill training in the military, recent college graduates and college students. I transitioned out of the Army in 2014 and saw employers turning away candidates from all three of those groups because they either didn't have a degree, didn't have the experience, or they didn't have the time to train them. And until we change the thought paradigm on where you're going to access your workforce, it's not going to help fill a workforce gap. You have to go out and find the people who want to work and find a way to train them internally to get them to fill the positions that you have open. And that's going to be the easiest way to address the workforce gap. That's what we're doing at VTS. So,
thank you.
As a side note to Tri-County Council and the work that Yvette, who was introduced earlier, Yvette and Ruth at Tri-County Council did a wonderful job earlier this year of bringing us 3 very ready-to-work interns. And VTS today, as kind of a surprise, Teon, please stand, please. Teon is one of this year's interns over at VTS. Teon is a Maryland native. He was born in D.C. He graduated from Forestville Military Academy up in PG County. He then went to Miami and got his degree in cybersecurity. He came back to Maryland. He's a Charles County resident for the past 5 years. He recently came through our internship program. It unfortunately ended about 3 weeks ago. We are keeping him on board at VTS as a paid intern through the end of the year. He's going to finish up 2 of his industry cybersecurity certifications. And as of January 1, Teon is going to be the next research and development analyst for cybersecurity at VTS, full-time paid, non-exempt employee as of January 1st.
Thank you. Well, it sounds like from the panel we're talking about partnerships, internships, and apprenticeships, quality of life, workforce competitive benefits and wages, Tri-County Council. Must be that Allman Brothers ringtone you had going there. Her phone was ringing and I caught it and it was fine. And then being flexible on the types of employees you hire. And I was impressed from reading what you said about hiring employees on the spectrum. And I worked in an IT-related field for a brief period of time, and it's a solid place to work for persons like that. And last but not least, beer, and New Belgian beer in particular from Fort Collins. We're going to open it up for questions now. Any?
Raise your hand if you have a question. Martin or I will come around and hold the microphone for you.
Yeah, first I want to say, Jonathan, what you're doing I think is very innovative, and I think a lot more businesses need to look at changing their thought paradigms and things about how they hire and retire. So I just want to applaud you for what you're doing. I think I've worked with you before, so
Yes.
and so I'll be reaching out to you because we have some very interesting new innovative processes for retaining and identifying employees with the right soft skills and things of that nature. Perfect. But my question is, it's about, we already know about the business, buy local, business to consumer model. We have that. I live in the town of La Plata, and so they do that once a year in terms of buy local. One of my, I guess, issues or concern is that, we don't put enough emphasis on the existing companies that are already here and keeping some sort of scorecard of the local products and services that they purchase. For example, I look at the Charles County's major employees. What they purchase computers, they purchase, they staffing, they have other products and services that they purchase. Where do they get those purchases from, and how can we start better tracking or provide some sort of incentives for them to purchase local products and services? Because if you look at, the retail stores that come, the national box level stores, why can't we have some sort of incentives for them to do their staffing locally or do their background screening locally or buy their telephones locally, things of that nature?
I know at the county you need to see Lucinia Mundy, correct? Right, so EDD has somebody to contact for that purpose. Panelists?
So I can tell you with the federal government, we struggle with federal regulations for doing procurement. Not only do we struggle with the companies that we can reach, but we struggle with the amount of time that it takes. The federal government is set up to ensure, someone actually told me once that private industry is set up to maximize the effectiveness of the dollar, and the federal government is set up to know exactly where every dollar goes. So we're a bit of a different type of machine, but what I can tell you is I'll give you my card after this, and I will put you in touch with the people that do procurement for Indian Head. I also, so you guys may not pick up on this with me on this panel, but I'm sort of out there. I'm touching everybody at Indian Head and trying to get things done. So I will make sure that you can get word out as to what your company does and who you need to get in contact with, and I'm happy to liaise those sort of things.
Healthcare, it's consumer choice, and we do a lot to market to make people aware that you can get good quality care right in our community. So I'm not really sure if your question is relevant to the healthcare field, but we would love that migration that kind of goes into DC and Northern Virginia to stay in Charles County to access your local healthcare needs in both our inpatient and ambulatory outpatient setting.
So for ourselves, dominantly within cybersecurity, and especially that about 3/4 of our direct revenue is generated through federal government contracts. One of the things that we picked up on that the Navy is actually doing better than any other federal service right now is mandatory minimums on distance of a local facility from any contractor who is granted a contract with the Navy. Patuxent Naval Station has already started doing this. Indian Head Naval Station is doing it. Dahlgren is doing it. We recently submitted a bid to do some cybersecurity work down at Pax River, and one of the mandatory requirements inside that contract vehicle was that whoever won that contract had to either A, already have a facility, or B, be in the process of acquiring a facility through rent, lease, or own within 50 miles of Patuxent Naval Station, period. It had to be an organization who was willing to put investment dollars of that company into the local population simply to win the contract to staff the work at Pax River. The Navy's doing this all over the country, and it's phenomenal for the local environment. With healthcare, I will say this, the telemed capability that has recently come about through Charles County is phenomenal for me as a service-disabled veteran. My servicing VA is at Charlotte Hall. Prior to telemed coming on board with Charles County Regional, all of my psych stuff, my PTSD treatments, my TBI treatments were done through telemed at the VA in Charlotte Hall with a doctor in DC. Being that I live an hour away from the primary medical facility in DC, I'm actually able to utilize what's called Vet's Choice. I'm an hour away from the local regional medical facility, so I get the option to go wherever I want. That means I can go utilize Charles County regional medical facilities. I can go see MedStar at a local facility. That means I get the choice to keep my dollars and my health care and my treatment in Charles County, where I want it to be.
Okay, well, I think that's it for our panelists. Please give them a really welcome and round of applause. Thank you.
And while Darrell makes his way for his final remarks, I do want to say that we have a survey we would like for you to fill out about today's event. So be sure to pick up a survey on your way out. Lacey has them over here. If you fill out a survey, you get a cookie, but it's on the honor system, so you can take the cookie first, take the survey, and then just be sure to fill it out.
Well, thank you. I want to say this. One, thank you all for coming. It's been, I hope you feel that it's been informative fall meeting for you. I want to ask the entire economic development team to come up on the podium. I want to thank our sponsors, our partners, the Economic Development Advisory Board, business owners, entrepreneurs. You are our job creators. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for starting businesses. Thank you for owning businesses. And thank you for creating jobs. Again, I want to thank Secretary Kelly Schultz, our panel moderators, our panel participants, my economic development colleagues, county government directors. Steve Kai-Ziegler and his team were here. I want to thank him. And I want to thank all of you for your support. Special thanks to Kim Dye and the Charles County media team and all my colleagues here in government and the JCs. The JCs have done a wonderful job for us this morning, and thank you to the JCs. Platinum PR, Sandy Spinagle. I always have a problem with. Where is Sandy? Is she up here? There she is. Sandy, thank you for everything that you do. We see you at our next quarterly business roundtable, which is in January of 18. The date and time hasn't been set.
Yes, January 25th, I believe it is. It was on the slide.
Okay, January 25th. Our next.
We'll be sending out notices.
We'll send out notices. And with that, because I'm a stickler for time, it is noon or just past noon. I want to thank you for attending the fall meeting. And I want you to have a safe and wonderful holiday season. Thank you for coming. Motion to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Second. Motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thanks, guys.